There's only one class, indivisible and interchangeable. A doll is a doll, all dolls, any doll, you name her.
Look, we love each other. We're gonna get married. We'll be happy.
Get out of my life, Nathan Detroit.
I'm glad you reminded me, Nathan. You won the bet.
Directed by Joseph L. Mankiewicz, Guys and Dolls, 1955, brought the beloved Broadway musical to the big screen with a star-studded cast and a massive budget. While the movie is remembered for its classic songs and colorful characters,
Can do, this guy says the horse can do.
the real drama was happening behind the scenes. Here are 20 weird facts you didn't know about Guys and Dolls, 1955. Number 1. The Great Cheesecake War. The tension between Marlon Brando and Frank Sinatra was legendary, but Brando found a unique, mischievous way to get under his co-star's skin. During the scene where their characters, Sky Masterson and Nathan Detroit, first meet, they were supposed to be eating cheesecake.
How about a cup of coffee? Maybe a piece of cheesecake.
Thanks.
Brando, knowing full well that Sinatra absolutely hated cheesecake, decided to have a little fun. Take after take, Brando would intentionally flub his lines, forcing the scene to be reshot. With each failed take, Sinatra had to choke down another slice of the dessert he despised. By the end of the day, Sinatra was so full and disgusted that he threw up his hands and declared he couldn't take another bite. The crew had to call it a day. The next morning, they returned to set, and with the prank out of his system, Brando nailed the scene perfectly on the very first take. Number 2. The star who hated mumbles. Frank Sinatra's dislike for Marlon Brando wasn't just about cheesecake. It was a deep-seated resentment that poisoned the atmosphere on set. Sinatra, one of the greatest singers of all time,
If the size of your bundle you want to increase, I'll arrange that you go broke in quiet and peace.
was furious that Brando, a non-singer, had been cast in the lead role of Sky Masterson, a part Sinatra desperately wanted. Meanwhile, Sinatra was stuck playing the supporting character, Nathan Detroit. His contempt for Brando was so intense that he refused to call him by his name, instead giving him the snarky nickname Mumbles because of Brando's famous method-acting delivery. Years later, the animosity hadn't faded one bit. Brando once quipped about his co-star, "Frank's the kind of guy who, when he gets to heaven, is going to give God a hard time for making him bald." Number 3. The role that got away. For Sinatra, the decision to cast Marlon Brando as the suave gambler, Sky Masterson, was a major point of contention, and no one was more upset about it than Frank Sinatra. He had lobbied hard for the part, feeling it was perfect for his persona and vocal talents. Being passed over for a method actor,
Your eyes are the eyes of a woman in love.
who could barely carry a tune, was a huge blow to his ego. The choice created a ripple effect of tension that lasted throughout the entire production. While Brando struggled with the musical numbers, Sinatra stewed in the background, making his displeasure known to anyone who would listen. The casting decision is now one of the most famous what-ifs in Hollywood history, defining the film's troubled production and the legendary feud at its center. Number 4. The man who was born to play, Sky Masterson. While Frank Sinatra was fuming over not getting the lead, there was another Hollywood legend who was even more devastated, Gene Kelly. The iconic star of musicals like Singin' in the Rain was producer Samuel Goldwyn's original choice for Sky Masterson. Kelly was practically begging for the role, believing it was a perfect fit for his talents. However, he was under an exclusive contract with MGM, and the studio flatly refused to loan him out for the picture. The decision crushed Kelly, who held a grudge against MGM for the rest of his career. He later said, "I was born to play Sky Masterson like Clark Gable was born to play Rhett Butler. It's hard to imagine anyone but Brando in the role now, but for a moment, it was almost Kelly's." If you're enjoying this so far, hit that like button and subscribe for more awesome movie facts. And tell us in the comments, what movie brings you the most nostalgia, and which one should we cover next? Number 5. Marilyn Monroe and the Unanswered Phone Calls. Vivian Blaine was fantastic reprising her Broadway role as Miss Adelaide, but another iconic blonde bombshell desperately wanted the part, Marilyn Monroe. She was eager to play the perpetually engaged showgirl and repeatedly tried to get in touch with director Joseph L. Mankiewicz. There was just one problem. Mankiewicz had worked with her briefly on All About Eve, 1950, and had no desire to deal with her notorious reputation for being difficult on set. He supposedly pretended he never got her messages, effectively ghosting one of the biggest stars in the world. Betty Grable was also in the running, but she canceled a meeting with the producer to take her sick dog to the vet. The producer, Samuel Goldwyn, was so offended by the cancellation that he dropped her from consideration completely, paving the way for Blaine to reclaim her famous role. Number 6. A World Built Indoors. Despite being set in the bustling streets of New York City, Guys and Dolls has a strangely artificial, dreamlike quality. That was entirely by design. Director Joseph L. Mankiewicz made a conscious decision to shoot the entire film on highly stylized sound stages, with no location shooting or rear projection. He wanted the movie to feel like its source material, which was subtitled A Musical Fable of Broadway. By creating a hyper-realistic, almost cartoonish version of New York, he preserved the magical, larger-than-life atmosphere of the stage play. The goal was to focus on the realism of the characters and their emotions, while letting the world around them remain a beautiful fantasy. Number 7. A method crap takedown. The feud between the two leads started almost immediately.
However, if you are really looking for some action, I will bet you the same 1,000 that you cannot name the color tie you have on.
Eager to make a good impression and genuinely concerned about the musical numbers, Marlon Brando approached Frank Sinatra on the first day of production. He suggested they rehearse their songs and scenes together, hoping to build some chemistry. Sinatra, who was already angry about the casting, wanted nothing to do with Brando's style of acting. He bluntly told Brando he didn't go for that method crap and flatly refused to rehearse with him. This set the tone for the entire shoot. Sinatra preferred a spontaneous, one-take approach, while Brando was meticulous and introspective. Their conflicting styles and personalities clashed from day one.
But I thought you took Miss Sarah to Havana.
You thought wrong.
Ensuring there would be no friendship between them. Number 8. The Mating Call of a Yak. While Frank Sinatra was a natural-born singer, Marlon Brando was famously not. He was deeply insecure about his vocal abilities and worked tirelessly with voice coaches to prepare for the role. Despite his efforts, Brando himself had a rather harsh opinion of his own singing voice, once describing it as sounding like the mating call of a yak. The recording process was grueling for him. He spent countless hours in the studio recording his songs over and over again, line by line. The final versions used in the film were a technical marvel of audio editing.
How I care, how I care, how I care.
With engineers painstakingly patching together his best vocal snippets from numerous takes. Brando later wrote in his autobiography that on one song, the words were sewn together so tightly that when he tried to lip-sync to the playback on camera, he nearly asphyxiated himself because there was no room to breathe. Number 9. The director's gamble on non-singers. Producer Samuel Goldwyn knew he was taking a huge risk by casting two non-singers, Marlon Brando and Gene Simmons, in a major musical. He was so worried about it that he put a clause in both of their contracts giving him the right to dub their voices with professional singers if he wasn't satisfied. After listening to their recordings, he spent a long time agonizing over the decision. In the end, he decided to let them do their own singing. "I wanted everything about this picture to be honest," he explained. "I had such great faith in those two people that they're just gonna have to sing." The gamble paid off, and while they weren't polished vocalists, their authentic performances gave the film a unique charm.
The man who's in love,
Woman in love.
and may they get.
That a dubbed version would have lacked. Number 10. The White Thunderbird Incident. Despite the on-set difficulties, producer Samuel Goldwyn was ultimately thrilled with Marlon Brando's performance and his professionalism during the shoot. As a reward for his hard work, Goldwyn gifted him a brand new, top-of-the-line white Ford Thunderbird. Brando was ecstatic and immediately started racing the car around the streets of Los Angeles. As a thank you, Brando broke his usual rule of avoiding publicity and agreed to do a series of promotional appearances for the film. However, his goodwill didn't last long. After a few interviews, he grew tired of the process and abruptly refused to do any more promotion. When confronted, he simply stated, "I've done enough for that white Thunderbird." It was a classic Brando move, unpredictable, defiant, and a perfect encapsulation of the rebellious spirit that made him a Hollywood legend. Number 11. The Secret of the Second Button. Director Joseph L. Mankiewicz and costume designer Irene Sharaff used clothing to tell a subtle story about the characters. This was most evident with Sarah Brown, the prim and proper missionary, played by Gene Simmons. Throughout the first half of the film, Sarah wears tightly cinched conservative jackets.
That at last I've come home, safe and sound.
Whenever she feels a moment of internal conflict or a desire to break free from her rigid life, she nervously fusses with the second button of her jacket. It's a small, repeated gesture that signals her subconscious wish to let loose. This clever character cue visually represents her entire arc, long before she finally unbuttons her collar and embraces a new side of herself in Havana. Number 12. The Strange Case of the Missing Contractions. If you listen closely to the dialogue in Guys and Dolls, you might notice something odd. The characters almost never use contractions. They say do not instead of don't and I am instead of I'm.
It does not seem possible. Me without a livelihood.
This wasn't a mistake. It was a deliberate choice to honor the source material. The film is based on the stories of Damon Runyon, a writer famous for his unique literary style. Runyon avoided contractions to make his streetwise characters sound like they were trying to be more formal and educated than they actually were. This created a stilted, overly proper way of speaking that became his signature. The film adopted this quirk, giving the dialogue a distinct theatrical feel that perfectly captures the spirit of Runyon's world. Number 13. The crew was forced to pick sides. The animosity between Marlon Brando and Frank Sinatra was so bad,
Nathan, I hand you herewith all their markers to be returned when they are made good.
that it split the entire cast and crew into two opposing camps. You were either on Team Brando or Team Sinatra. Brando's supporters included director Joseph L. Mankiewicz and his co-star Gene Simmons, who formed a close bond with him during filming. Sinatra, on the other hand, had his loyal entourage, who were always on set with him. The tension was so thick that eventually the two stars stopped speaking to each other directly. They would only communicate through intermediaries, sending messages back and forth like generals in a war. It created a stressful and divided work environment for everyone involved. Number 14, a battle of singing styles. The feud wasn't just personal, it spilled over into the creative process. Sinatra took issue with how he was expected to sing his songs. For the comical number Sue Me,
Call a lawyer and sue me, what can you do me?
composer Frank Loesser wanted him to sing in character as the whiny, Bronx-accented Nathan Detroit. Sinatra refused, reportedly telling Loesser, "We'll do it my way, or you can fuck off," that Sinatra was turning his supporting character into another romantic lead. He insisted that Mankiewicz should tell Sinatra how to perform, but the director refused to confront the volatile singer. The incident infuriated Brando so much
I would like to remind you, gentlemen, that you were no longer on your knees in a sewer, but sitting in a mission.
that he swore he would never work with Mankiewicz again, and he kept his promise. Number 15, a little joke at Sinatra's expense. Frank Sinatra was known for his larger-than-life personality and tough guy image, but physically he was famously slender, especially in his younger years. The filmmakers decided to have a little fun with this contrast in his very first scene. When we first meet Nathan Detroit, he steps onto a penny scale, which reveals his weight to be a mere 130 pounds. Then, in a classic comedic beat, he takes off his coat, and the weight on the scale drops to 125 pounds. It was a light-hearted inside joke about Sinatra's slim frame, poking fun at the difference between his public persona and his physical stature. It was one of his most recognizable features during his early crooner days, and the gag served as a charming, self-deprecating introduction to his character. Number 16, the real-life Sky Masterson. The character of Sky Masterson, the impossibly cool and daring gambler who would bet on anything, has roots that might stretch back to a real-life legend of the American West. The character is rumored to be based on William Barclay "Bat" Masterson, a famous frontier lawman, gunfighter, and gambler. While that might seem like a stretch, there's a compelling connection. Damon Runyon, the author who created Sky, worked alongside Bat Masterson at the same New York newspaper, the New York Morning Telegraph, where Masterson was a popular sports writer and columnist in his later years. It's easy to imagine Runyon listening to the old lawman's stories of high-stakes bets and daring adventures and using them as inspiration. In another rumor, the name Sky was inspired by a real con man who successfully scammed the infamous gangster Al Capone, a feat that would certainly require the kind of nerve a character like Sky Masterson possessed. Number 17. A bet blessed by the Bible. In one of the film's key plot points, Sky Masterson makes a seemingly impossible bet, a 3-horse parlay.
Have we got a bet?
No bet.
This detail isn't just random gambling jargon, it contains a clever biblical reference that ties into the movie's theme of salvation. The names of the 3 horses Sky picks are Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. In the Old Testament's book of Daniel, these are the names of 3 pious young men who are thrown into a fiery furnace by the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar for refusing to bow to his idol. Miraculously, they survive the flames unharmed, protected by their faith. By picking these 3 names, Sky is, in a way, betting on a miracle. It's a subtle but brilliant piece of writing that foreshadows the movie's central idea that even the most hardened sinners can be saved by faith and love. Number 18. The one role Sinatra regretted. Even years later, the sting of being passed over for the lead role never fully went away for Frank Sinatra.
I am not going to find a place for my crap game, because everybody in town knows that Brannigan has turned on the heat.
In a 1959 interview with Newsweek, 4 years after the film's release, he admitted that his role as Nathan Detroit was the only one in his entire career that he was ever disappointed with. His frustration wasn't with the character itself, but with the missed opportunity. "I wanted to play Masterson," he told the magazine, making no secret of his feelings. He even threw a bit of shade at his co-star, adding,
A certain guy that he could not take a certain doll away with him on a trip to Havana.
I mean, nothing disparaging about Marlon Brando, but Masterson didn't fit him, and he knew it. This comment shows just how deeply the casting decision affected him, and how he truly believed the film would have been better with him in the lead, a debate that fans of the movie still have to this day. Number 19. The feud continued on set. The tension on set wasn't just a quiet Cold War, it often became openly hostile. According to actor Regis Toomey, who played Arvid Abernathy, Sinatra's attitude made life difficult for everyone.
Then I'll play with you.
But I am not a player. I am merely the operator.
Sinatra was snotty and very difficult, as he really didn't want to do the role. Toomey recalled, he can be very cruel and disagreeable. He added that director Joseph L. Mankiewicz had an awfully hard time managing the star. Sinatra's jealousy over Brando's bigger role manifested as unprofessional behavior, creating an uncomfortable and challenging environment for the director and the rest of the cast, who had to navigate the crossfire. Number 20. The ultimate revenge, making Sky's song his own. Frank Sinatra may have lost the battle for the role of Sky Masterson, but in the long run, he won the war. Though he was relegated to the sidelines in the film, he found a way to claim its most iconic song for himself. Years after the movie came out, Sinatra added "Luck Be a Lady."
Luck be a lady tonight. Luck if you've ever been a lady to begin with.
Sky Masterson's big show-stopping number to his live concert repertoire. His powerful, swinging version became a signature tune, so much so that today most people associate the song with Sinatra, not Brando. It was the ultimate musical revenge. He may not have gotten to sing it on screen, but he made sure that in the end, the whole world knew it was his song. And that's 20 weird facts about guys and dolls. 1955. From legendary feuds to surprising casting choices, Joseph L. Mankiewicz's musical classic remains one of the most entertaining films ever made. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment which movie we should cover next.